It's, let's see, just turned 6:03, so, roll call for the Board of Supervisors, Chairman Jim Bradford, Vice Chair Jennifer Finazzo, Supervisor John Salucci, Ron Edenfield, Engineer, Attorney Richard Pringle, Audrey Mendress is the Manager and Supervisor, Chris Lawson, Secretary Treasurer, and let's see, how many guests we got? Man, you guys all look good tonight. Glad to see you.
12.
Let's see, there's how many of you? 1,
12.
2, 12? Okay, that narrowed that down. I guess we got 12.
13.
13.
12.
Oh,
Baker's dozen.
That's
okay,
passed around.
we'll go with 12. I just want to thank everybody that came out last Saturday. Tony and his wife were instrumental in putting together sort of a road cleanup project, whereas they donated the pots, they donated the plants, they donated the time, and other people came out and gave a hand. And if the pastor can put up the pictures of the cleanup of the end of the street for us real quick. Man, he's got me up there. I can't believe that. You'd think there's something better to look at.
Gee, that would have shaved her.
But this is what it looked like last Saturday up at the end of the road. And we had Cody, who lives on Papillion Drive, and he came over with his auger and his tractor, and he dug holes for the fences. You see Clark Hepburn up there in the picture, his back to you. He came up with an auger and assisted and helped. We had the gentleman in the red or sort of an orange shirt back there is a realtor that sold the property for Brad that was here. I only bring that up. I can't.
Kevin Shelley.
Kevin Shelley. Okay. His dad used to be the assistant fire chief at Bonita Springs for about 30 years. So he's since retired. But Shelley is a realtor out here in the subdivision now, and he was participating. And we had other volunteers, including myself, that were up there. And we all spent about 4 hours. I do have to thank Gerald's Tree Service. They came up on Monday, and they donated their time to cleaning up the left-hand side of the road. So all of the big trees and things that got trimmed and some of the sable palms that got cut down there were all. Is that the only picture we have of the project?
No.
Yeah. Okay. If you can, I'd like to see the getting toward the end of it if it'll come up. John Salucci, by the way, basically got this whole project started when he decided on his own to go down, clean the sign, and paint it. All of that being done by him. And I don't know, did you have any help, or did you just have to do that for yourself?
I had a lot of admirers who stopped on the cars.
Okay, so he has a lot of people who like him now.
Some people asked if I paint their house.
Okay, he may get a job out of this. But you can see all the wood and everything that got taken down. The other thing that you happen to notice is that the information signs have been removed from the entranceway down there. You will see them being put back up along the roadway at different places where they will be effective. But it was just so cluttered down there that we thought a lot more of our subdivision than pulling into it. And the only thing you saw was road signs. Yeah. Okay. So the thank yous have all been said, and it really appreciated. And any of y'all who would ever like to, or talking to friends, start some projects of your own. A strike cleanup project of getting golf carts on a Saturday or something and going out. Tony's been doing a lot of that by himself, so I have to keep handing Tony the accolades because him and his wife they clean our ditches out here and they work very hard at it. And I got to tell you, it's a difficult job. They just about get done. It rains, it creates difficulties. People can't really work in the rain, so they get rainouts. And you'll see them out there soaking wet, but they're still out there trying. And then we'll get a complaint afterwards sometimes when people can't understand that the mowers ran over it and then the grass all jumped right up after the rain. And it didn't look like they were there at all. But we know they were there because many times I saw them out there. So with all due respect, Tony and his wife have been working very hard for this subdivision and making it our home. And that's what I would like to see is the next year, as we progress into the next year, that people do take this as being our home and keep it that way. I know that my report comes up a little further down the way, but I started talking there for a minute. And I did want to thank you all for that. And let's go ahead with the manager's report. You got it? Anybody else? No, let's do the engineer's report. Man, I was willing to jump right over him. He talks too long.
Thank you, sir. Quickly, since I know we have a lot on the agenda today, currently have
Give me my microphone, please.
we currently have 13. Is it on?
Do you sign this one?
Power buttons. There we go.
I
How
don't
about
know.
now?
What
There we go. Okay, we have 13 open permits, 1 new application. Since the last meeting, we did not close any permits, and we are ready to do 2 this week. Now that we've completed the inspections and also 12 inspections. Also wanted to update you on the work done by Vacuum Dig. They were a contractor that Audrey brought to the table. They did culvert clearing on Catskill, Henson, and Papillon. Almost said Papillion, but I'm going to break myself of that habit.
I've been trying to retrain but he won't listen.
I was corrected by a man who is fluent in French, and he said it is Papillon. So anyway, that's a total aside. In essence, on those 3 streets that were cleared, we asked them to create a sump in front of each end of the pipe, 4 to 6 inches deep, at least a pipe diameter in length, so that would catch the sediment that would flow through the pipe. They did do that. There were a few cases where they actually left some of that material. I think it's on Penson, where they had some material that they did leave, and that has been noted to them. Essentially, they completed about 94 culverts. I'll come back to this number in a minute, but it's my estimation that the fair amount due for that work is $10,050, or approximately $106.90 per culvert, to inclusive of cleaning the pipe, cleaning the sump. That also includes the clearing of the pipes at the end of each roadway that discharge out into the canal via the inlets. They also created sumps in front of those so that we don't have any obstructions of the leaders, and those pipes are clear and flowing now. In our review, we did come to a follow-up inspection once the work was done. We had no objection with the work done on July 24th, 5th, and 26th, which was Catskill, Henson, and Papillon. We did, however, have issues with the invoices for the work claimed to have done on 7/31, which would have been just the canal pipes coming from the end of the road via the inlets from Papillon East all the way down to Stillwell, and then starting again at the north end of Stillwell heading west for a total of 5 streets. In our inspection, we didn't find where those pipes had been cleared.
For years, by the way. You guys remember the report we did a few years ago, and the things that were supposed to be being done that had never been done, or at least didn't look like they'd ever been done. Well, this is what we're finding again, and one of the things that I'm just going to help you out here a little bit, I hope, Ron, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have pipes under the ground in the back of the subdivision that bring water back toward the front of the subdivision, up toward the railroad tracks on Mariah Lane, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have overflow drainage pipes that go into the canal system. And we're finding that, so when we started this cleanup project, you can't clean up culverts when they got nowhere to drain to. And this is what he's referring to.
And so what we did was we issued an email out to Vacuum Dig on August the 11th, We shared with them what we had no objections with. We also shared with them our concerns. And all three cases, the first 4 days, we had been proposed. The approved proposal was essentially $3,350 a day for an 8-hour day. There was also a $250 charge in there for disposal of material, but we established on district site for disposal. Therefore, we didn't get charged that, saving us $750 for the 3 days. But at the $3,350 was what was proposed. They actually invoiced on the first day $40.1750, the second day $37.90, the second and third day $37.90. The difference being is they brought in additional personnel and invoiced us for their time. And I objected to that, said the proposal was for the $3,350. We assumed that was all men, material, equipment, whatever's necessary to do the job for 8 hours. And I did get a response back from her from Vacuum Dig with an apology for that. They were looking into it, and we're attempting to schedule an on-site meeting to primarily look at the 4th day's work that we couldn't find any true evidence of the work being done. We go through and look at that. But so at this point, we have the invoice, Chris. We're not approving it for payment yet until we meet with them and resolve those issues. So once we've done that, we'll get them paid and hopefully save the district some money.
And one thing I'd like to remind everybody of, a few years ago when we had other companies doing the work and we put out bids for work to be done, it was going to cost us approximately $300 plus for every culvert pipe to be cleaned on every road. So right now, multiple years later, we're at $109, was that, Ron?
109.
109, which also included cleaning out pipes at the ends of the roads that were not in the estimate. So as much as Vacuum Dig may not have met the goals that we had originally expected from them, they're way ahead of what the other vendors were.
So Ron, if we resolve the issue of what happened on the 4th day, is Vacuum Dig overall providing enough results that will have them work at least on the perimeter canals and the other drain areas?
The work they did do on the culverts at the end, discharging into the perimeter canal system, was good. Again, looking at the work that they have indicated that they did, I couldn't establish anywhere in the canal where they cleared an outfall pipe out to the canal. If you can't find the outfall, then I've got concerns that anything else upstream of that was done. On the north end, there were 2 pipes that appeared to have been done, and the inlets appeared to have been clean. The water levels were where you would expect them to be. But they did not do the sump work in front of all of the inlets, all 10 of the inlets, which in essence, all 10 of the little bleeder slots are covered up. So we need to get those sumps created. Plus, we also need to, in looking at the downstream end of the canal end of the pipe, they had cleared the vegetation out, but there was a substantial amount of sediment still in the pipe, which caused me some concern that they had not adequately cleaned the pipe. So those areas are in question, and once we get them in the field, hopefully we'll be able to resolve those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's for
On to the manager.
That's for
Okay. We're going to go to the manager's report.
Okay, and Ron, thank you for saving the day and getting in there and working with them and redirecting them to make sure that yeah, you're very welcome. So all is not lost, like Jim had mentioned, even though they didn't meet our expectation, they were still ahead of the ball when it comes to comparing them with previous pricing for those services. Tomorrow morning, I'll be meeting Jim and I in the district with a company called Shenandoah. They as well are a culvert cleaner, ditch cleaning company. So this will just be another opportunity for us to have more knowledge of what these items should be costing us. and give us price comparisons. So that's gonna take place tomorrow morning. I did wanna bring up the fact that Hyacinth Control, if you're familiar with them, they did come to our district as I had requested, and they did take a look at our canals. And fortunately, they did report that we do not have any water lettuce, nor do we have any hyacinths. So that was a good thing. He said we were in good shape to not, have those invasive species. FPL was contacted, so we're expected to eventually have 2 new streetlights in the district. One is going to be on Strike Lane, and the other one will be at the Stillwell Gate entrance to have that highlighted for safety and also monitoring, because we need to make sure that that nobody's abusing those gates. Also, give me 1 second. Sometimes I can't read my own writing. Oh, yes. I did meet with a company called Collier Paving and Concrete, and I met them in the district, and we surveyed Stillwell, and we also surveyed Strike Lane. Those are the main roads that take the majority of the abuse on our roads, which we all know they're privately owned and we're responsible for maintaining them. So I'm expecting to receive a bid that will give us some idea, and I also have 2 other companies in the works. So we'll be working on that, so we know what we can expect when it comes time for any repairs. But I will happily say, the gentleman, his name's Eddie, and he said our roads are pretty good condition. I was happy to hear that. Let me see. I think that's it, folks.
Go right ahead.
Audrey, have you know,
John would like to have a moment.
yeah, I
Yes,
just want to
please.
ask the manager if you've seen what I saw today.
Okay.
The triaxle dump trucks, the big dump trucks, going through from Stillwell, empty,
Okay.
coming down Strike Lane, going down Stillwell. Somehow they're getting through the gate. Either they ghosted the number or they have clickers, and they're all 1099 contractors, independent drivers, and then they all go down Cockashell, and they turn left into the new housing development going. Have you seen that?
I've seen it, not today.
Today I
So
saw 3 in a row.
Correct.
Because they were in front of me, and the guy was like putting his hand out the window, clicking, gates go up. The third truck went through so slow, when the gates are coming down, he almost hit the truck bed with the gates. So that could be what's causing damage to these gates,
Sure.
is these triaxles. So
I agree.
I'd like to put on the record now, and this is a request for engineering and legal with the manager, to write a letter to the developer and the builder of that site and say, how can you have independent trucking contractors going through our private roads through our gate? Because you're coming down empty Strike, turning right on Stillwell, going through our gates, loading up the fill and all the trees down there, taking out of there, and then leaving, and then they go down Cockashell and then turn left into Shangri-La and go out to the city dump down the end of, what's that, no, West Terry, or East Terry, they keep going out.
Is this
So-
something the sheriff's office could assist with?
I don't know, but I'd like to know how 3 triaxles got through our gate.
Well, can I add to that, John? So today when I went down there, was about 45 minutes sitting on, I want to call it Cockashell. Because I came out of and I sat there and I was just watching the construction on the parallel site. So people would sit and wait for somebody to come.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they see that gate open, they come through.
They come
And-
behind you.
Yeah, they come behind you and they muscle through it. So I've had 2 fights.
They done that to me.
Yes. So you understand. I've had 2 fights, verbal, please, you don't live here, you're not a resident. You need to enter and exit this development through Strike Lane, period. This gate is for people who reside in our district and have paid for the clicker, not for you to cheat and go on. So I've been called every name in the book, and I'm okay with that because I'm in the right. So I've spoken to Pike Construction, who, and I'm not trying to dog anybody or throw anybody under the bus, but Pike Construction was guilty of it. And I chased them down, and there were two men in a truck, and I said, that's not cool. This is not, and I gave them my card, and I said, I'm the manager of the district. Don't do it again. And I think for that day, they chilled out, because I was, circling like a buzzard. However, it is an issue, and it'll continue to be an issue until people see that we're serious. This is not for your convenience.
I bring it up because we're all paying for it.
Yeah.
It's costing
Couple
us
times
money.
I have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I stop at the stop sign and wait until they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go in because I know they're gonna tell me.
Yeah.
They've done it a couple times, more than once.
We were setting up this, we were getting ready to come in from Cobble Shell into our district. There was a truck sitting right square in front of the gate. And
Waiting
we
for
were
somebody to
not
open it.
moving
Right.
Until somebody opened the gate. We started to go around the other way, but we were in a hurry, so we had to open the gate and he went in.
So you're guilty.
I'm guilty. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I
Just
definitely,
stop moving from
Yeah,
in front
there's
of that
sometimes, you can't, when you're in a lonely little car and you're trying to get through, and that big truck's sitting there, I can see where
gate. If he'd
it,
have been behind me, it'd been a different story.
Yeah.
But
He will go right behind you.
I had an Amazon driver ripping because I came through nice and slow and I stopped my golf cart and I moved my flag around and I pointed and I said, see that? I'm the manager. Just let me through. I said, no, go around. And I was every name in the book. But you know what? I'm okay with that.
Anyway, I think we need some official request from the developer and that builder to explain to us how our because on the side it says, and they're all Cubans. Juan Hernandez, Naples, Florida, and so Fort Myers. They say right in the drawer, they're LLCs. So I know they're independent contractors. So how are you getting this gate key? Is our gate code so easy to scan and make a copy? I don't know.
It is.
That could be one of the reasons why we're getting damage to the gate.
It is because one of our neighbors showed my son. He say he copied his garage clicker,
Right.
and then he come in and he say, "Look," and he opened it with his own clicker. So it is very easy.
They need, look into it, maybe there's a frequency you can tighten up.
They do make some openers that have some kind of rotating frequency, so you can't easily, you have to manually operate, push a button on the opener, plus at the same time your opener on your vehicle.
If it's not an official clicker like we have.
Well, but it's a different design. The old ones were easy. You could just, if you had the clicker or were close to the clicker, you could, as you said, ghost it. But supposedly some of the newer ones, you shouldn't be able to do that. You have to, it's a different process. You can't simply do the clicker and do it.
Yeah,
We could put the spikes in there that are magnet controlled, and all residents have a magnet in the bottom of their vehicle. So when you go across, it stays down. If you don't have the magnet, the spikes come up. Good way to do this.
If this can,
Excuse
me.
Okay.
have to agree with John about they're all being Cubans. So I come out of Catskill onto Strike and I make my stop signs and I could see the semi was not going to stop.
I'd like to get one.
So I ended up waiting for him to go and I followed him. It was over, I think, on Golden Eagle. Followed him all the way there.
Oh, so there's other guys dumping that are doing jobs back here.
Yes.
That's even worse.
So I went, why didn't you make the stop sign?
You didn't stop, what you did.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm happy that I knew enough to see that you were not going to stop. I said, but this could have been an elderly person who wouldn't have known that you're not going to make the stop. You know what he told me? He didn't have time. And he was Cuban too.
Well, that's the problem with the visitors out here, like with all the construction going on. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, first, to make reference to Jim not knowing that someone's gonna stop because he's elderly, it's bad.
Siblings.
But no, the other system that we can go to is the tag on your car. And the tag sets off the opener. And that means everybody has to get tags for anything we want to go through. And
That's not a bad idea. Talk about like the barcode scan where,
Yeah,
so then we need a reader on both sides.
Correct. Right. Yeah, but that system's probably around $350. It's not crazy.
For every car you got.
No.
No, the reader.
Just set up
The reader.
The equipment.
And for you, it's only $600. No, the tags are a couple dollars.
That's not a bad idea.
Anyway, that's another direction you
Yeah,
can.
that's not a bad idea. We should look into it.
We'll take a look into that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
The stop signs running there at Deeks and Catskill is just, like I said, the other day I was going out, it was kinda raining, I was stopped at the stop sign. A lady was coming in on strike and she was gonna turn down on Deeks. I'm at the stop sign on Deeks, she's on strike lane, and this guy just coming barreling down strike lane to get out, and she pulled out to come in and turn left, and I got on the horn. If she hadn't stopped, there had been a 3-car accident right there at Deets and Strike Lane. That guy done nothing but hit the gas and keep on going. And like I said, I seen he wasn't going to stop, so I immediately got on the horn. It alerted her what was going on, and she stopped, and she just was sit there for a minute after that happened, because it had knocked one of them 3 into me, or one of them 2 into me.
Being on my golf cart, I agree with you. I've witnessed a number of those things where cars don't even slow down going through that stop sign.
I don't care if it's 6 o'clock in the morning, they did the same thing, fly through there and never even slow down.
Well, I can hear them from my house. And so, but I don't know, would it be of any advantage to put a couple of speed bumps at that particular stop sign on strike lane only? On each side? I mean,
Well, they use
That would be funny.
They use speed humps in Fort Myers. They don't use speed things. They use humps. So, I mean, I don't know what it is, but are we going to be in a? Is it going to cost us more once somebody gets killed out there than the speed bumps cost us?
well, I don't think the water district's in violation or the subdivision's in violation of any rules or
Moving
laws.
violation, yeah.
But the fact is, we still don't need it to happen in our subdivision.
Years ago, we had the speed bumps.
Well, they didn't
In our-
stay. They didn't stay very long, and what they had done was they come along and they had put so many of them on Stillwell, and they put them on each side of all of the stop signs,
In our-
and it was over. Well, it wasn't that they didn't work. It was that they had so many that they got complaints from the fire department, from other locations, and they removed them almost within months of putting them down. So I'm not suggesting that we line the roads with speed bumps. I was only suggesting, because of that one particular stop sign, that it seems to be more aggressive than others, or maybe the objective is take out the stop sign and only have the side road stop. But, pardon?
They'll just be running 90 when they come through that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the problem. But I'll tell you, I got a couple people in my street that think it's from 0 to whatever speed the cars can go till they get to the other end of the road anyway, on side roads. So there's some people that you're not going to change the speed no matter what you do.
I'll go through
You
it.
better on my street too.
Just one other suggestion on the stop signs is, I just recently was up in Seattle, and when they put a new stop sign in, they had it completely lit up, and it was going like this, blinking, and it was a solar device.
I've seen that recently.
And I don't know what one of those would run, but it'd be worth giving that a test.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people with their boats, but equipment, they don't want to bounce on those things, and they're following the law,
Right.
but you still bounce.
Well,
Yeah.
we had discussed that at the board several years ago about doing that. And personally, I'm not opposed to putting two of them up and testing them and see how they work if the board wants to look into it.
Yeah, they were
At least on Strike Lane, there's what, 6 stop signs?
Yeah, but
3 roads?
if we just do the two at Deets to begin with and see if it changes anything.
But they were, I can tell you that there was no doubt that stop sign was there. Okay? Where these, you should see them, but I don't know. But anyway, that's sort of a suggestion.
Why don't you just put that on the agenda and we'll
I think the violators know the stop sign is there. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think that's
Yeah.
the flashing thing. That's not a bad idea, but honestly, when I've seen people run them, it's like, those are people, I think those are people in our neighborhood. They know
Yeah.
it's there.
But, okay, thank you. I think we need to move forward from that. Let's look into maybe two of them, okay? I could, as I'm closing here, moving on down the line, all of you know the work that the board has put in over the past year since Hurricane Ian and the projects and everything that we're working on, and we've got a lot of jobs out there. We've worked with FEMA. They have replaced the rear gates. They've replaced all the signs in the subdivision. They're going to do some canal work for us. They're going to do some road work for us. They're going to replace the culvert pipes up by the railroad track, making them larger for better drainage, being proactive for a future storm. They're going to if you guys don't know what the weirs are, they're the dams in the canal system in the back part of the subdivision, especially along Stillwell and Mariah Lanes. They're going to replace those at no cost to the subdivision with manual gates in them so we can open them and pre-drain the canal system before a catastrophic event occurs. These are things that the board has been working on for the past year, and I know I've been going to a lot of meetings. John's gone to some meetings. Jennifer's been participating. I'm not sure how many meetings, if any, that she's made, but she most certainly supports everything that's going on and has part in the say in everything that we're doing. And Audrey's been going to meetings and along with Ron Edenfield, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed on what is going on. I'm going to put a letter in our upcoming mailing that will identify a lot of these things for you so that you'll get to look at it and you'll know what we've been doing. On the outside of that, we've also been putting in for grants, and we've got Peter, what's his last name?
DeBoss.
What was that?
DeBoss.
DeBoss. And that gentleman, he's like Tony. The guy just really donates his time. He puts in the effort. He attends these meetings all the way into Fort Myers. His own car, his own fuel, his own time. He doesn't want a dime for that. And he's been attending meetings with me with the city of Bonita Springs and people like that. And if you have any friends that want to participate, the board members work really hard for you guys. And if we could just get some help from, if you know anybody that's just looking for something to do that would like to help out, ask them to come give us a hand and pick a project. The computers are wide open. They can look on the computer for grants under water districts, under the state of Florida, under the federal government, under local government. And they'll find all kinds of grants out there that we can apply for all different kinds of things. This ultimately will save tax dollars for this little teeny district that 900 people are expected to pay the bills. We're working on getting the city of Bonita Springs to help fund and pay for the surrounding community that utilizes our system, which includes hopefully this year, they're going to take on the Stillwell Canal from Strike Lane to the Weir. Am I correct there, Ron, in the discussions with the city of Bonita on that? They've also agreed to pay the taxes on the 22 acres in the front part of the subdivision that are not in our subdivision. When the road project was done, that 22 acres, it was a farm They had mango trees there and stuff. One gentleman owned it. I'm quite sure the board at the time saw no harm in what could this little teeny farm do to the subdivision. Today you can see the difference in the development down there, and we have no clue what they intend to do down there. But they're utilizing roads you paid for, and they're not paying to support the cleaning of the water district's canal system. And that's about 1/3 of the canal system by the time you start at the railroad track, go down and make the bend and go to the end of what the 22 acres goes to. So City of Bonita is going to chip in and take care of that. We're working on an interlocal agreement with them to cover a number of things. When we get these things finished and signed, all of that will go into effect. Let's move on down. We have the treasurer's report.
Okay, I provided all the reports to the board members over the weekend. Did you have any questions about any of those reports for the month of June and July and the interim reports for August? No questions? We are ending the month of August with approximately $146,753 in our Bank of America General Maintenance account, and our CIP account has about $1,421. In our reserve funds, we have about $979,434. So for total cash and investments, we have about $1,127,608. Now next month, if the work gets done that is projected to be done and the bills paid for vacuum dig and the canal cleaning, we will probably be in our general maintenance at an all-time low of about $28,000 ending the year. But the reason for that is that earlier in the year we did move some monies out of the general maintenance fund to our Florida Prime account because of the interest rate that we were receiving on those funds, $175,000, if you recall. And so we may pull some of that money back to carry us into the fall after the year end before we start getting the tax revenues again. Because we have about $80,000, $90,000 worth of bills that we expect to pay in the next month and a half. Any questions? That concludes my reports. Any questions?
Chris, the money that you're projecting will come in, the bills that are going to come in, have you received all the invoices for this fiscal year up until now, almost the end of August, from all the service providers?
No, Richard was supposed to send me bills. I'm hoping you.
I owe some.
You have some bills. Did you bring them with you?
You owe us, so we owe you.
Yes.
Do you take IOUs?
Sure. On occasion, from good people.
Okay.
I think I have that counted into that number already, depending on the bills.
But we have basically a projection forecast. So when you're saying you want to take 80 or 90 out of the account to bring it back in to carry us over until revenues come in, is that based on the forecast of what you think is coming in from Ron, Richard, Vacuum Dig,
and
else?
Gerald's.
And Gerald's, okay.
Because Gerald's going to be about 66.4. Vacuum Dig's, if it's at 18, it's at 18, whatever it might be. And then I'm projecting him to be about 25.
Possible, I don't know.
And then...
And you're all trued up until the end of August for all invoices?
Not yet.
As soon as I get those in, yes, sir.
Okay.
Through the end of July, yes.
So that when I say 28, I've kind of factored what we had going that was outstanding that I knew about, plus what I expect in the month of September as normal course of business. And I don't think we need to take 90,000 out, but I'm just saying we're going to be hitting some low numbers. So when we get into October, we're probably going to need to bring at least 30 to 45,000.
Because revenues don't start showing up till December.
if we're lucky, November.
November should show something.
Okay.
If we don't have another storm and they don't push off those tax bills, then we should get it earlier than December.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, was that it, Chris?
That's it.
Okay, attorney's report.
Yes, sir. As we continue to talk, Mr. Chairman, with possible contractors to do work for the district, if we could just remember, we do have the board's policy that was adopted that talks about, has an entire section related to awarding contracts. So the proper word to use when Ms. Audrey especially is talking with folks to potentially do work for the district, when you're asking for values or things like that, use the word estimates.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and
Correct.
let them know that in the future there will be a competitive selection process done, so that they understand that what they are giving you might be requested again later, but it's just an estimate for your purposes only of understanding values.
And you are correct. And just to add to that, for example, the gentleman from the paving company, I let him know that we need to know what it's going to cost us in the future, and we were looking to get estimates. I did use that in my conversation with him. But thank you for the
Yes, ma'am.
correction.
Two phrases: estimates and competitive selection,
Yes, sir.
so that they understand. I just don't want anyone in the future to say, "Oh, wait a minute, I thought I was being selected when I gave you the pricing." So I've run into that, unfortunately, not here, but in other places I represent, other districts I represent, where
Thank you.
folks kind of use that. So.
Yeah, I would have to just then remind you that as we have, we were talking about having Gerald's Tree Service do work. Would that fall under this scope of getting bids to have that project done?
Well, Gerald's Tree Service is currently under contract with the district.
Their contract ran out, as all contracts do every September.
Well, no, sir. Actually, the way the contracts are written, because I did not want the district to be without somebody to do the work, the contracts say that they have an end date, an official end date, but then they reoccur or renew on 30-day intervals until we terminate them, which we can do on short notice if they're at a 30-day interval, or until we extend the term at the board's discretion. So I set it up so that you have somebody you can call to get work done, but at the same time, if the board wants to end the contract, you can also do that on short notice. So that's the way they are currently. So as an example with Gerald's Tree Service, if you want Gerald's Tree Service to do an additional scope of work under the current contract, I believe they are currently still under contract.
Yeah, the question you're trying to make there is if it's under the current contract, meaning the current pricing, etc. If one of the variables change, then that ends the contract.
Well, what happens is it gives you the ability to say, no, I'm not going to do that with you, Gerald's. I want competitive selection to occur. I want you, Gerald, to also bid on that work. The only work that is currently under the agreement is the scope of work that was part of the agreement originally. You can amend that scope of work if the board wants to. Not because Gerald wants to, but only if the board wants to. The idea is the contract gives the board latitude to get services hired that the board needs to get hired for the benefit of the district. And whether that's with Gerald's or whether that's with somebody else,
Yeah,
it's up to the
I
board
only
to decide.
referenced that because we were beginning that project.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't meant to direct it towards
Yes.
Gerald's Tree Service.
Yes.
Okay.
And so as an example, since Gerald's Tree Service is the one that I know about that's out there, where you have asked them to do as additional work. The only way they could do additional work beyond the scope of the current contract would be to amend the current contract. And originally, the request for proposals, qualifications that I did, my recollection is that I made it broad enough so that, again, if the board wants to, you can enter it into an agreement, an amendment of the agreement with Gerald's for them to do additional work for you, if that's what the board wants. Strictly at the discretion of the board. There's nothing that is binding on the board in any way. It gives the board abilities without giving the board contractual obligations to Gerald to let Gerald do the work. You don't have that responsibility. You can give it to whoever you want to, including Gerald, if you want to give it to Gerald. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's the lawyer's way of making it beneficial for you as much as I can.
Thank you.
My job.
Now we've had Gerald do other jobs beyond his contract they were very small dollar
Sure.
amounts.
We-
And we did not amend the contract because it was just an odd job here, an odd job there at a small dollar amount.
But since then, the board has written a code which they need to abide by, or there's no sense in writing it. So
Yes.
therefore, the attorney is trying to keep us in tune with what we agreed to do. And the objective to bidding things out is to have the fairest and best price of whoever's doing it. Number one, I've got no idea what certain things cost. Unless if I'm going to go buy a new car, I don't go to one dealership unless I just don't care what I'm paying for it. I go to all of them that are available, and I check out the price of the cars, and I get the best price I can on the items that I want. So,
And that's that competitive selection process. And so just as another example, with the competitive selection process, if the board did a request for qualifications or for proposals and you didn't get any responses back for work that Gerald's Tree Service could perform for you,
Sure.
then you could still get the work done under Gerald's Tree Service
Sure.
contract. So
I understand that.
you got as many options as possible was the goal with their contract.
Okay.
So you can, if you get in a pinch and you need something done quickly, then that would be the other time that you could use their services without
We
doing
did
a
that
competitive
during Hurricane
process.
Ian.
Yes, sir.
We had time frames we had to meet,
Yep.
and to get 100% payback by FEMA, and
Had to
matter
get
of
it
fact, we had 10 days, and Mr. Edenfield was able to pull it off, get the vendors, and we had people, everybody he could get, muster up from different companies
To get
in the
work.
ditches cleaning them. So, and we barely made it by midnight on the last day. So, correct.
Yes, sir. So just trying to give you a latitude.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now the board did approve Gerald to do the job
For a certain amount of
for
money.
up to the contract price
Up to
a
the
couple
contract
meetings
price
ago.
as
Yeah.
situated in this current year's budget.
Right.
So if we're going to expand the scope,
That's
Then
an
you-
amendment to
then-
the contract.
then
Yes, sir.
then it'll be amendment to the contract, and I'll have to bid on that. That'll be competitive bid on the scope expansion. Yes?
I guess I would have to tell you that
I'm sorry.
I have met with Gerald in reference to the current contract and the current scope of work. Unfortunately, his price has gone up, and he has proposed doing a portion of it in this year's contract and doing the rest of it in next year's contract. I don't know whether or not that meets, because he's not going to do the completed job that the scope of work calls for. So therefore,
So-
the price has gone up tremendously to over $100,000. So it's no longer in the 60s.
That doesn't sound like a competitive.
So you can, for that work, do a competitive selection for that work. You don't have to award that work to Gerald's then.
Well, the question is, can we, with the price increase, if the board chose to do so without competitive bidding, according to the rules that the board put down?
I believe so, because you had a pre-existing contract with Gerald's Tree Service that you used a competitive selection process to award in the first place. So if you use a competitive selection process in the first place to award a contract, then that contract, I believe, can be amended to add additional work if you approve it. If you do not approve it, then no, sir. They cannot they can't go out and do additional work and send you a bill for that and expect you to pay it unless you've approved it in a contract amendment. That's the only way it can occur.
We got it. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of advertising is we doing to find these bids?
Real quickly, we're going to give you public input in just a minute.
I'm done. That was it.
Okay, amendments to the meeting agenda. Anybody got anything they want to amend? I would have to put Gerald's Tree Service on that as a question for the board. I'd also have to, I don't think that the amount of money, Matt, is going to amount up and beyond what the manager is allowed to spend. But if we want to look into those lighted stop signs, we need to authorize her to do that, or she can just do it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you have under your business agenda currently item 10D, which says contracts, canal and perimeter road cleaning and roadway trimming. That probably covers Gerald's Tree Service.
It does, okay.
But I don't know about the signage.
I was focusing on the
Yes, sir.
money issue, and I did overlook that.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, I think the signage is probably going to be well within her scopes.
Her
or
authorized
scope.
expenditures, otherwise she's not going to get to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. Public input. You're up.
What kind of advertising are we doing to get all these bids?
I'll tell you what. What's happening, and the attorney or anybody else here who wants to speak up for that matter. Used to be we could throw an ad in the newspaper and got all the responses in the world. The newspaper hardly exists anymore, so therefore it's a thing of the past. I'm a dinosaur, and I got to tell you, I don't know how we go forward with getting these people. So we're looking for every
Other than
opportunity.
these meetings.
Pardon?
Other than these meetings.
Well, other than this
But if they
meeting,
don't
or
come here,
or for one person who's sitting in this meeting tonight that knows how to do that and they can forward the information. That's why I took the time to listen to you and to say, we're looking for help in these areas.
Jim,
Yes,
if
sir.
I can. Typically what we do is put together a bid package that will provide a scope of work and general conditions, and we will distribute that out generally by email to known entities. So if you do know someone that has a particular provides a particular service that the district is could use, please send me that information. We're constantly updating our vendor list for various services, and the more people we can send to, the more companies we can send it to, I think the better off we are. So,
through the website?
pardon?
It's also there. Yes, ma'am. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
we put it in the newspaper, although very few people look at that anymore.
The Bonita Banner.
We put it on the website. We can send it to the Bonita Banner too. We put it on the website. And then the third source for us primarily is word of mouth. And so everybody who knows anybody that might be interested tells them, and then they can go to the website of the district, which was not always the case, but things are much better with the website.
Mr.
And-
Salucci's been really working on our
Yes.
website, bringing it into the current world we live in and making it more user-friendly. And again, a thing I want to thank him for. That's all on him.
So so it will be available there. So anybody that you know who might be interested, you can direct them to the website. They'll be able to find it and then pull it up and respond.
Sounds good.
Yes,
Ron,
ma'am.
have you put the bid package on the website?
No.
So maybe you can get that to Audrey to put up on the website? Would it be a different bid package for different jobs?
Each one is different. Essentially, the contract or the bid package is the same, the scope of services changes and perhaps the general conditions.
So we tried to set it all up so that the document looks pretty standard, and then the scope of services element changes every time. And that's a separate exhibit.
So
That was the goal.
there would be multiple
Yeah,
then
the
on the
scope will always
website.
have to be modified depending on, yes.
So there would be maybe request for proposals 2023-1, request for one type of service, request for proposals 2023-2 for a different type of services, and each time the scope of work changes.
Okay, can we move on now?
Yes, sir.
Moving on.
As you wish.
Thank you, sir. The business agenda items 10, the following: meeting minutes approved for 7/17/23. Jennifer?
My motion to approve the
I
meeting
second the
minutes.
motion.
Aye.
For 7/17.
Motion carries. Meeting minutes approved for 8/9/23, which was a special
A
meeting.
special meeting. I approve the meeting
And that was
minutes.
a budget meeting, for those of you who didn't know. And
I make
Approve
the
the
motion.
meeting minutes for 8/9/2023.
I second the motion.
Second.
aye, motion carries. Financial report approved, 6/30/23. Bank statements, 6/30/23. Financial reports, 7/31/23. Bank statements, 7/31/31. Financial reports, 8/31/23. Bills and financial reports as of 8/21/23. Any
I make a
questions?
motion, yeah, I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Aye, motion carries. Contracts, canal and perimeter road cleaning, roadway trimming, etc.
If I may, is, we should. Everybody remember the Addams Family or the
Yes,
Munsters?
that's what
That was a good one.
Are you the hand?
I wasn't the either of those. August 2nd, this year, we issued an email to Gerald, and I'll just kind of read through it real quick. Attaches the scope of services with general conditions for the maintenance event that you and Mr. Bradford have been discussing. It is generally based on the previous contract. However, I've taken the opportunity to update and slightly expand some aspects of the previous agreement. It's my understanding that this is to be done to be a one-time catch-up event, but as you will see, I've included latitude to extend should the board desire. Had asked the district attorney to pull, the district's attorney, not the district attorney, don't want to accuse you of that,
Oh, no, sir, please.
to pull together the contract portion of the agreement, but figured it would, we could get the scope and general conditions under review ahead of that. Let me know if you have any questions. With the exception of this afternoon, it's the first time I spoke with Gerald. I have yet to receive comments back from him or questions or much of anything on that. I think he's been dealing directly with the chairman on that, which is certainly within his purview. We did, I think, increase the intensity of some of the services in areas such as canal maintenance. We requested that the material be removed from the canal. This is primarily a water quality function. Any material, substantive material left in the canal is simply going to degrade and generate nutrient spike. So it's our best interest, since others are monitoring our downstream flows, it's in our best interest to present as good a water quality as we possibly can. Additionally, we requested that all trimming of exotics, whether it be in the perimeter maintenance road, whether it be on the outside of the canal, or whether it be in the canal, different locations had different requirements. If it was in the outside perimeter, you could treat it in place, let it die off, and then come back and do some maintenance treatment in the future. It's a standard practice for exotic control. You simply girdle the tree, treat it with a herbicide, appropriate herbicide, let it die, and then do maintenance spraying going forward. On the interior side of the maintenance roadways and actually in the canal, the maintenance roadways, they were to cut it down to the ground level. Again, apply appropriate herbicide so we're not trimming that same pepper over and over and over again. We directed them that at the right-of-way line, they're to hedge up 15 feet. And if there are exotics there, they're to treat the exotics. Now, I think that's going to wind up in that exotic dying back out of the right-of-way. But as long as I felt like as long as we're doing our work within the right-of-way, we're okay to do that. It's an exotic, it's a non-native, and we want to treat it so we don't have to trim it every 6 weeks. In the canal itself, everything was to be trimmed. Any exotics were again to be treated with aquatic herbicides, with the material being brought out of the canal. I didn't think I had varied the scope that dramatically, so I was a little surprised to hear about the pricing. But in any event, it is a slightly modified scope of services. It does break the system down into several areas, and I think it was an appropriate scope of services to protect the district's interest from both a long-term use facility and from a water quality perspective. So,
In respect to what you said, Ron, what I went out and I looked around the. Okay, we've got some buzz going on down there. Okay, I went out and looked around the entire canal system myself, and in
it's in the
respect to previous years of cleaning, when Hurricane Ian hit, we put off the cleaning. So this whole year we have not done anything in the ditches and or the canal system, because other than the cleaning out of the canal system and maintaining the water flows. Because of that, the growth is tremendously, and I will say that, and I think anybody who lives on any side road here, even if you haven't gone on the perimeter roads, recognizes that some of the ditches are really covered over with the berry bushes and stuff. The one thing that Ron did identify, and Ron and I talked about that early on, was that to lower the price of maintenance in the future of tree trimming or whatever we do out here is to get rid of the problematic problem entirely. So thereby cutting it, doing whatever's necessary to end that. In previous years, they've been trimmed, let grow back. Next year we do them all over again. And we're trying to quit recycling the money and get some of the costs down on what these things cost. Hurricane Ian, had it not been for Hurricane Ian, we would have been really further ahead. That really hurt us because we needed our money to be targeted toward what we needed. And right now, we don't know what September's going to bring. We've spent, was it $200,000 or $300,000 out of our backup money? So with that, we haven't received that back from FEMA yet. So out of our emergency funding that we've had, and not planning on draining it entirely, we don't know what the September's going to bring for us. So we still have to allow for that to get through there. And so I'm totally caught myself with the new number of around $100,000 for doing the tree trimming and the mitigation of the canal system and stuff. So that's the other board members going to have to participate here and tell us how they want us to go.
Well, I have a question first for engineering and then for legal. In your assessment of the main perimeter canals and then, of course, the side roads, what percentage, if you can guesstimate, of the non-natives are at the edge of a canal or a culvert, that area, or whatever, versus 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet back into somebody's property? Is it sort of like a lot of the canals have 5 foot overgrowth, but the root of the thing is 3 feet into the person's property? Is that like half the areas, 2/3?
Most of the canals, the issue is downy rose myrtle that's actually growing on the bank of the canal.
Okay.
For the canal proper, the maintenance area is predominantly Brazilian pepper that typically is on the
Somebody's
adjacent
property.
property. You may have a little bit of a buttress that's in the right of way, but predominantly it is on the adjoining property. That's why we prescribe that they come in and trim it vertically at the right of way line and then treat that face in hopes that that bush would die back onto the owner's property.
So, is there a way to present to all the owners some type of authorization that they allow whoever utilizing to trim the Brazilian peppercorns and other things to go like within 5 feet into the property line to kill the roots if they're there, and then the owner's not burdened with this as well, and it is a one-time event, as opposed to always just focusing on the right of way. Say to the owners, look, we're all paying for this anyway. Let's get this over with, and let's go out and on some of these invasive species, not trees. I'm not talking about trees, Australian pines, but the peppercorn, some of the bush stuff that if we can get rid of, we can get rid of it. And maybe some kind of documentation, the owner signs off, and hopefully we get a lot of the people to agree on these roads.
There is an authorization that the owners can sign, which would authorize on a very limited scope that would authorize the district or its contractor to enter onto their property.
To dig the roots out of something. Yeah.
It would depend on the agreement and what it specifically authorizes. But yes, sir, they
Or
could
cut it down to
authorize.
the ground level and put the herbicide on or something.
And it would depend upon somewhat species specific.
Right.
If you're
A
dealing
lot by lot basis. It'll vary with every lot, I'm sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and I,
Well, I was going to say the Brazilian pepper is just noxious and aggravating, and that's typically one that you can cut at ground level, treat the stump, and be done with it. Typically with trees, the earleaf acacia or melaleuca, you'd be more prone to go in there and girdle it and treat it and kill it in place. But if we're doing that on someone's property, I would recommend that we remove that tree completely. Otherwise, we have this dead tree that's going to blow over in the wind and
Right.
be problematic. So,
you know, as we become more built out here, if I let my trees grow over into the ditch system, I don't mind being sent a bill for cleaning them. I don't know why I have to pay to clean my neighbor's ditches because they don't clean theirs. That's where they should call up a contractor such as a company such as Gerald's Tree Service and pay them to clean that area if they're not going to do it. I own a number of properties out here and I pay to have my stuff cleaned and pay to have the ditches cleaned at the same time. So I don't know about you guys. I know a lot of you, and I don't know a single one of you that let your properties overgrow into the ditch system. You're the only one I don't know. Do you let yours? I'm joking with you. But I don't know anybody out here that lets theirs overgrow into the ditch system. And I don't know why you need to pay for somebody else's property. I mean, if you want to do that, I'd like to have my yard mowed.
Anyway, I propose that because it might be something that will help with the long-term planning. Quote, go to the root of the problem, literally the root of the problem.
right.
It's a cheaper long-term maintenance and thus less tax dollars than us.
And is consistent with a one-time event that you are currently interacting with Gerald Street or somebody else. I mean, if it
Hopefully
doesn't
other
work out,
people too.
yeah.
I mean, we'd like to
If
see
it
the
doesn't work
competitive
out with
bid.
Gerald Street Service, then you could do a request for proposals that would have that scope of work in it. I mean, you could do that today. You could authorize that action, or you could do that and continue to negotiate with Gerald Street Service as well. It's strictly up to the discretion of the board. You know,
Well, I'd like to propose for the board if they want to vote on you drafting a document that has that potential to ask a homeowner to go certain distance in to kill a Brazilian peppercorn or something like that. Case by case basis, but have a generic template. I don't know. What's the board think? It's within
Would it
the
be
section D
appropriate
of
to
the
have-
contracts anyway.
Would it be appropriate to have a policy or a resolution, or I'm not sure what vehicle it would be, not unlike South Florida Water Management District or Lee County, basically outlawing non-native vegetation?
well,
But how can we outlaw something on somebody's property?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I actually was going to make a comment related to that topic, and unfortunately, there's two things. In one instance, you might be able to do something like that if there was a homeowners association. A homeowners association has authority to have certain dictates, certain mandates for the keeping of the individual subdivision lots in the homeowners association area. Unfortunately, we're not a homeowners association. You're a water control district.
Right.
The other authority that I think the county has that we don't have is the ability to reach beyond the boundaries of the roadways for assessment purposes and for drainage control purposes. You cover the entire district area. I can look, but generally it's the right of ways where your authority lies, and I believe that's what I'm going to find here as well. Is that would be?
Don't disagree whatsoever.
Yeah. Now I can see where if there was a really severe circumstance where there was a really severe impact, that there might be some ability to do something. If there was an intentional act of some sort of a property owner, if they went out and spread Melaleuca seeds, along the boundary of their property, and that was having a severe adverse impact on you, then that intentional act you might be able to address, maybe. But you're in a very unique place. You're not a homeowners association, and you're not the county, and they both have authority that we don't have.
Understood. There might be circumstances where those, I know there are situations where peppers are encumbering our ability to maintain our works, but we could address that with simply trimming. But then again, there's certainly areas where, particularly the earleaf acacia, which is somewhat of a brittle tree, as well as Melaleuca, that have a fall radius that our canal and right-of-way does exist within, which may be able to get us outside of our right-of-way with permission of the landowner.
Right, and that's the important part is,
Right.
is as the supervisor mentioned, to do an agreement, some authorization from the landowner that would authorize us to go onto the property and remove the Brazilian pepper versus just trimming it would be an example of the work.
I don't know where we really got with this, so.
Well, I think I'm just proposing to the board, do we authorize the district attorney to at least draft something that could be presented to homeowners in the future with this issue?
That's fine with me.
And yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that
Audrey
require,
and
does
I'll
that
work
require
together,
a
I'll
motion?
try to put together an inventory of where
That'd be a good
where we
idea.
have that issue.
Because it may only be,
A handful.
150 of the 800 owners here who are going to actually ask
Right.
I don't think the number's that high.
And
Okay.
She and I will work on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, we don't need a motion or anything on that.
No, sir.
Okay.
We'll put something together.
We're at budget year 2023-24.
Okay. I provided for you in your packet, based on our last discussion, the budget. Did you have any other discussions that you wanted to? It looks like this page right here. Did you have any other adjustments that you wanted to discuss or
Yeah.
modify?
Me personally, I think on the administration line, going to freeze it to the previous year of 78,000 because we need to spend 58 so far, and that's my proposal. I do not agree with being at 90.
Freezing it at what?
Keeping it at the
Keeping it
78,000
at
from
78.
last year because we didn't spend the 78 yet.
The reason you didn't spend the 78 was because we didn't have a manager for the full 12 months. So
But if we had a manager for full 12 months without any of the increases, it would be at 78, not 90.
and that includes the 5,000 that we discussed last month.
We discussed 5,000 and 12,000. I don't agree with either one.
I didn't agree with them when we discussed them, so
Yes.
I'm in the same.
Okay, so you don't want to increase the 5,000
Nope.
for
would
the
be-
board
no.
supervisors for
That would be
meetings?
no.
No to 5 and no to the 12. My vote. Can't speak for the other supervisors.
So what number do you want to take that to? 78?
Leave it at 78 from last year's budget.
I don't have last year's budget. The budget last year was 79,308.
79, yes. And then the other question I would have is on legal. We're budgeting 52. Richard, are you comfortable with that number? Because you haven't gotten your billing in yet. You probably won't have as much FEMA. We don't have probably the one potential litigation is now gone away from that settlement, the sale of that land. So is this number reasonable?
I believe it is. We will be in the third year of the annual landowners meeting cycle under the new format.
Right.
There was a lot of effort put into that before. You have your policies and procedures manual done. There was a lot of effort put into that before.
Website's done.
Website is done.
Auditor's now set in place.
It's hopeful, yes, sir, barring something unanticipated.
Unforeseen, yeah.
We do have also the manual that we're working on some revisions to, some at this point, so that should be done sooner than later too. If we are able to get everything streamlined, yes, sir, that hopefully will be doable.
Okay. And then Ron, your number here is reasonable, or it's based on, you think that's still with the FEMA meetings and permit applications and
And that also included the flow study.
yeah, because I know we're gonna have to start on the drainage plan.
There's an aspect that's come up, and I'll bring that to the table now. So we haven't put together a number on it.
Because that's almost 50 from last year's budget.
The part of the HMGP project, the mitigation program, they do require what they call an H&H model, hydraulics and hydrology, where you do a stormwater routing.
Can you all hear him okay?
Not very good, no. Like, next to me.
Hold on, wait, Uncle Fester's gonna bring it over.
Sorry about that. Is the development of an H&H model for the district, which is essentially a numeric model that you can run various storm events through different rainfall amounts, different circumstances of offsite inflow, et cetera, and look at altering down discharge scenarios. And it gives you an ability to assess potential for impacts from various storm events. We've touched base, we've reached out to Morris Depew to see what they had in the can so that we didn't have to recreate that from scratch. I heard back from them today. They are looking. It is a model that they haven't, as they put it, hasn't seen the light of day since the original permits for the roads were
2005.
2005. So 18 years ago they had a model. I'm hoping to have an answer tomorrow as to whether or not they have something that we can bring in, take the data, the input data, and create a new model with.
Have you asked through your contacts at FGCU at the university for their water school if they have models and we can bring some of the students in to help with this? Because we're going to have to do a new water plan. And maybe they could be a part of this and we can keep this cost down.
The modeling, I would encourage you not to turn loose to the university. Engineers are bad enough about turning things into science projects. That gets into the university, it's going to be seriously a science project. We need to keep it tight, contained, and focused and to the point. So hopefully by tomorrow evening, I should be able to give you a number on what it's going to cost us to generate the model, which will be used not only for the HMGP purposes, but it will also be used for the FEMA reimbursement programs for the weirs and other such things. So
it'll also be for the new water plan?
It'll be part of the new water plan.
Okay.
So it in essence will be the root of all decisions going forward hydraulically.
Can I ask a question? On the H&H model, is that something that's kind of standard and utilized on other water districts, or is it specific to each district?
I get to use a famous quote that I've always wanted to use. There's a fellow named Jack Malloy who was executive director of the South Florida Water Management District when it kind of brought itself into the new millennium. And he famously said one afternoon that we built the entire Central and South Florida flood control district without a model. Now you can't swing a dead cat without hitting 24 of them. The point of that being is, yes, models are integral to doing business with government agencies today because they provide government agencies the answers that the government agency wants.
It sounds like a dog chasing its tail, but go ahead.
Justification. It's justification is what it is.
The best model for any job is the simplest model. If you can do a model on a spreadsheet in Excel and get the level of results you need, that's the model you need to use. There are some entities such as Lee County that believe you should use Mike Sheet or Mike 11, or Mike 13, which are models that they're proprietary models. You have to essentially buy a programmer in Switzerland, bring them over here and let them run your program for you. Because most folks aren't capable of populating all the data that it needs.
All the variables,
so, the assumptions. I'm getting off on a tangent here, but we would propose to develop the model either at ICPR, which is interconnected pond routing model, which is universally utilized, or in StormCAD.
Which one of those two or both are accepted by FEMA?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would we need any of the surveying that we're suggesting for the future water plan to be done to get some of your data points for this model?
Yes.
So we're going two birds with one stone.
Right.
Doing the survey of the drops of the flows of water, as well as feeding the data to the model. It also then supports the water plan.
The survey establishes the basis of the model.
Perfect. Okay.
Water flowing through a pipe. If you break it down to the smallest increment, that model is looking at water coming from one end of Mountain Lake to the other.
I understand.
Going through each pipe, add a little rainfall on it, add a little water soaking into the ground, and balance it out, and it'll run that calculation 1,000 times.
Now, are you running that model based on perfect flow of our canals. In other words, everything's been cleaned up. It's as if it's brand new from 2005.
There will be assumptions put into the Manning's friction coefficient, which is a measure of how much resistance to flow that any particular device, whether it's a pipe or a canal or a street or what have you, puts, again, the resistance to flow. So there'd be assumptions that would be made for those variables, yes.
So in theory, there's the possibility we run this model, we come up with movement of water, flows, predictions, and then 2-3 years from now, we have another unfortunate hurricane. We'll go back to FEMA and say we need some more money. They come back and say, well, based on your models, the water flow should have gone out, you know, so much per, and you guys didn't have the canals clean enough, so shame on you.
It's called a model for a reason. It's not an it's not called an absolute.
All right, I'm just trying to clarify.
And that's something I preach to student and politician alike. No offense there.
No, I'm sorry.
Not referring to you as a politician.
I'm a student right now. I'm listening. Go ahead.
But again, the simplest model for the job is the best model. And a model is simply a representation of what's put into the model. You know, you've heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out. That was based on models, mostly traffic models, but that's a whole other story. Hydraulic models are, you look at the worst case condition, you look at the best case
come in the middle somewhere,
and you balance those out. Then when you do have a storm event, you have the opportunity to go calibrate, where we know what the water level was at point A. Let's see what the model said. Well, the model said it was spot on. Okay, we're doing pretty good.
Will your model incorporate us when we have a new weir that we go and open the gates as part of the model?
Part of the model purpose would be to develop that as substantiation for putting those gates in the weir.
Okay. All right.
Intuitively, we say that being able to generate storage within the system is going to be a beneficial thing, just intuitively. The model will verify that for government purposes.
So for budget purposes, are we assuming then if he's doing all this, that's what that number is going to incorporate to get started?
Well, we increased it 24,000 at the last meeting for the idea of the flow study. And we had increased it from last year's because of the FEMA projects and the work that he's doing with the city and county governments. So he's got to tell us we need a water control plan done this year.
Right. That's why I was asking if this model is going to be a key part of the water control plan, which it will be.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that 129,000 enough? I don't know.
Yeah, that's my question. So is 129 enough?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, the budget is a model itself.
I know, it's a forecast.
Yes, sir. And so there, and I say this all the time, there are two elements of the financial operation of the district. One is to create the forecast. That's a very accurate word, is to create the forecast. But it's a proposal, it's an anticipated expenditure, it's an anticipated revenue being received. But then the other part is the actual revenue received compared to the actual expenditures that are incurred by the district to perform the operations of the district. And so yes, sir, you get the ideas to get as close as you can, but with the understanding that there is flexibility. It is a budget. It is not a mandate for the district's operations in the future.
Yeah.
So get as close as you can.
I think with the additions from last month, I think that would be adequate to get the model done.
To start working on this.
The survey cost, I've got two firms.
I've been interested in that, yeah.
And I've got, all the survey companies are busy, but I will beat on them again to get that number done. That's kind of the wild card right now.
Exactly.
So, but I think 129, certainly we can get the modeling done inside that.
But unfortunately, you need the surveying to really do the modeling as well.
Right.
And that's...
And at what point are you going firm on your budget? So it won't be
Tonight.
September.
Tonight, that's why I'm asking these questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may also clarify. So the process of adoption of the budget, this is for discussion purposes tonight. The budget will actually be adopted at the
123 meeting.
at the September
September.
23rd meeting, right? Remember, we were going to talk about it further. We had the workshop. Input was received. An updated budget was provided to you in draft. And September the 23rd, we scheduled a public hearing to occur during the Board of Supervisors time period after the annual landowners meeting for the board to actually receive public input and adopt the budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
So between now and
September
September 23rd,
23rd.
you should get these numbers. Okay.
Yes,
all right.
But with that said, we have to tonight determine the assessment that we're going to charge and for the budget. So the assessment
is-
has to be determined tonight because I have to turn that in to the county before the end of the month.
It is a disconnected process, but that's what you have to do.
One number that's different than what you had last.
Chris,
Chris,
Audrey,
can I
let's
ask
say
a
something.
question? The 17, the 5,000 and 12,000 that was added to the administration, why don't we just add it to this cost?
Engineering.
Just transfer that over and then nothing changes.
It's whatever the board wants to do.
I'm okay with that because that gives you some buffer. If we throw 17 right now, I mean, I know what survey cost should be.
Yeah.
20, 25, 30, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
Just look at-
Yeah, you're gonna come up with 25 to 30 probably. But at least we know 17's in there.
Right.
And you may not be as high on some of the other stuff. So I'm okay with that.
I think it'd be fine. Take it to, was it?
I think Audrey's idea is a
146.
good proposal. Don't change the overall number, just move that around.
That's going to change the, that would increase the engineer $11,459 from the $129,000 currently.
Okay?
The other number here that's a little different than from the budget workshop is insurance. We did get the insurance renewal. It did go up to $14,620 from what it was last year. So I did update that number. And I am currently trying, at the board's direction, to get a quote for property insurance on the gate. And it's in underwriting, and I've got to send them a picture of the gates. And I should hopefully have a number for that for you all to decide whether or not you want to insure the gate for property insurance. I don't think you really cared about the guardrails, right? So we were only looking at the gate. And what
Yeah,
about the cameras?
Even at that, the gate cost for replacement, if we tore up both of them at the same time, is around $12,000.
Right.
So
Depends
So
on
if the
what,
insurance premium is $500 a year for 12,000, great. If it's $2,500 a year,
then it's not cost
that's not
effective.
it. It doesn't make sense.
So I hopefully will have that by the
None of what
September
the
meeting.
numbers are.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts on any of the other categories that you would like to discuss?
I'm okay.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, that took that assessment to $619.11 per acre.
Per acre.
That's what percentage increase?
It's 13 point something.
So can
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have that figure again? What was the assessment going to be extra than what it was last year?
Hold
I
on.
didn't hear what she said.
13 point something percent,
Increase.
if the board approves it.
It's the $72.08 increase per acre, and the rate is 13.18%. So for an acre, so the difference is $90.10 for an acre and a quarter.
It's too much money. For what reason do you need that increase?
Primarily because we just outlined now that unfortunately, we have to, by law, come up with a water plan.
Okay.
That hasn't been done since 2005. Previous boards have not kept up with what they're supposed to do. And we have to now start looking at maintaining the roads. We have to, there's a lot of stuff that previous boards unfortunately just did not do.
I understand.
They didn't do their jobs. I hate to say that.
I understand that.
So now we're being Atlas here, carrying the district on our shoulders.
And trying to be proactive.
Yes. And trying to be, yeah, exactly, proactive and, because we're all paying the same taxes. So we want to try to eventually stop paying so much. But at some point, you got to put a line in the sand and say, hey, if we don't do it now, it's going to get worse and worse.
You know, one of the things that we're working on, but we don't have it. If Hurricane Ian had not affected us, we would have been farther ahead in working with the city of Bonita, Lee County, and the other agencies. That was what I said last year, but none of us knew Hurricane Ian was going to hit us. I'm not personally in favor of raising this budget to that amount. I see the need for it because when I go down and look in the culvert pipes with Ron and go look in the drainage system and I look at where we're at today, if our system had been taken care of and maintained all along, we wouldn't be here today talking about this stuff. A few dollars a few years ago would have taken care of it year after year after year. It got thrown on this board, and I still, as much as I sit here in this chair, I still don't want to do it. And I'm hoping, you know, I'm sitting here by a wing and a prayer, hoping that all the work we put into getting the city of Bonita to participate, I don't see our representative from the city of Bonita coming to our meetings anymore. And I think that she ought to be very proactive in knowing the needs of this district and taking those needs downtown Bonita and supporting what we need here. And I'm disappointed in that personally.
I was only here one time that I saw.
Twice that I know of. But
wants to get votes and wants to say, I got voted in.
And I think that that's really sad that we have, and for the 3 years I've been sitting here, that's the only one person that's ever shown up here from the city of Bonita. To our former member didn't either. And so I don't know how we're supposed to have the 900 people, etc., give or take a few, pay these high bills and keep doing it. There's a point when you can't. But there's also a law that says we have to maintain this drainage system. So.
All right, so this budget took drainage from 134.8, which was last year's budget, to 156,000. We increased it 50,000 last week, or at the last meeting, for the culverts and the canal cleaning, or I mean for the culverts and the swale cleaning. This budget has the roads at 15,600. Last year we had the roads at 55,000, so we reduced that, but we increased the drainage. So I guess the question is, do you want to keep the drainage at 156,000, or do you want to go back to more of what last year's was, knowing that the work that you're talking to with Gerald is considerably higher than in years past?
You know, that was really devastating to me to have the difference in that cost.
Because we don't have that cost built into the budget.
I understand that. The only thing was, with that particular company, he agreed to do part of it this year, and then in November do the second part of it, which the temperatures will be cooler, and it would come out of next year's budget, not this year's budget, to complete
And
the
did that
work.
include the herbicide? Because I didn't think he had a herbicide license.
He does not, but he has a person that he can contract with.
So would that
from
was
my
that included the
from my understanding, that included the herbicide work. And I'm also I believe that we will really get the city of Bonita kicking in on the Stillwell Canal, and I also believe that we're going to get the 22 acres at the other end of the subdivision in this upcoming budget year from them. So I have to lean toward the fact that I believe that's going to happen.
Okay, so do you want to make some reductions in the budget to
And-
help bring that increase down?
I would like to make a reduction in the budget, and if we need to, we'll go into our emergency funding and pull out the difference until the CIP is paid off.
Okay, so what areas would you like, where do you want to see that
What was
reduction?
last year's drainage?
130,
134.
134, we've
And what do
only,
we
but
have
we've
this
only
year?
paid,
150, what?
we only paid 4865 because we didn't done any of the work. This year's budget, it was originally at 106, and at the budget hearing, you increased it 50,000 to 156,000 for the culverts and the
Okay,
swales.
wait. So what I'm saying, Ron, if vacuum dig comes back and we straighten them out, and they at least do all the perimeter canal, the main, not the streets, not the sump and all that, but the main ones, which is 90% of the blockage. What do we estimate they would be? About 10 or 15 more days?
$100,000.
Probably looking at, 30,000, perhaps 35.
On top of the 18.
Right.
I propose we go back to the 106,000 for the drainage, and that'll knock out 50,000 and probably bring the assessment down more like $65, $70. People aren't hit with as much, but we have to. I feel like we have to start preparing for the next 3-4 years, and you got to put a line in the sand, start spending the money on the brain work. The brawn work can be done periodically. But if we don't start the brain work, then we're going to be in violation by not having the next plan.
Yes.
I have another question too. Well, the last meeting I was at, we've been gone on vacation, but y'all had discussed that you were gonna send us a letter for all the ones that did not pay phase 2 once the interest was paid off from the former board's mistake.
Correct.
Okay, now, we have that to pay for in addition to you raising our taxes next year.
If you have not paid CIP Phase 1, your CIP Phase 1 is for an acre quarter in Unit 1 will probably be about $436 from $725.17 or $725.71 in years prior.
So the phase 2 that we did not pay for because of the mistake that was made,
That for Unit 1 is $236, and you only be asked to pay half of it for an acre and a quarter.
We're going to try to get it paid over 2 years.
So you have 2.5 acres, so you're looking at $477, Darlene, divided by 2.
But wasn't that money taken out of the general fund to pay for that? Or was, okay, so it can go back into the general fund, and I believe that was the question here, that if that letter goes out in our annual letter that we're sending, and we get some of that funding, the amount of money we need to raise will not, it's sort of like hoping that we'll get money from Bonita for certain issues. If enough people pay that money back, then we won't need to have the tremendous pay increase this year, and we'll have the surplus money.
And
Was that correct?
And we're budgeting $86,393, which is half of the amount that's owed. Yes.
And that's already
how much
included,
is
right?
not paid? That
Pardon?
the property owners did not pay?
172 and change.
That 172,000 was not paid.
86,393 times 2.
But we're splitting that over 2 years.
Okay, got it.
Do you have the list of who owes?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they got a list.
Do you remember when that was made?
Do you have the list?
July
They have
2021
July of 2021 's when
when
that-
they paid it.
You will get a letter.
that was when we paid it.
Be the cop. Yeah, we've been told we'll get a letter. I ain't seen nothing.
I can tell you the letter is in envelopes with a stamp and ready to go out as soon as I get Mr. Bradford's letter. It will be going out hopefully this week. No, I have it.
Sticker shock.
Well, there are UFOs now too, so don't worry about it.
The dog ate it.
I did that too last meeting and they made me feel
I'd
bad.
like to know if I'm on the list.
See me after the meeting, I can tell you.
Okay.
If you know.
So,
Where do you want to be on the budget?
so do we want to bring the drainage back down to 106? of which we know a good portion will get used to clean
What's
the
up with
perimeters,
that?
which will help with drainage in general.
That's what I'm doing right now.
And then that should bring down the assessment.
To what number?
Hold on, I'm
She's doing it right
increasing the engineering. And then I'm reducing the administration. And what does that do to our numbers?
While she's doing that, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir. Can we?
Is
Who
that
are you?
172,000?
Who are you?
Is the 172,000
Are you Norm K?
delinquent? Yes. Is the 172,000 delinquent money?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
No,
Well, technically, it's not delinquent. It was paid for, but we took it out. It was paid for out of a fund that wasn't
Right.
for paying that off.
But yeah. But
Some
as
other
the-
people
as the
were
landowner-
derelict in their duty.
They're late with their
created the
payment?
delinquency.
no, we haven't
No.
billed it yet.
Oh, you haven't billed it yet? Oh, okay.
What do you mean you haven't filled
Actually,
it
it
yet?
was before.
Built it.
Billed. Oh.
Billed.
We have not billed it yet.
B-I-L-L-E-D, billed.
That's what would make it delinquent.
The phase two assessment, when the phase two assessment was paid off in full out of maintenance revenue, then that ended the obligation, the technical obligation, the technical assessment obligation of those phase two landowners. Because there's no longer a technical assessment obligation, they are not delinquent.
Yeah, if they'd spent that money on cleaning our ditches and making sure they got cleaned, we wouldn't be sitting here where we are today.
So there'll be a
Well, I understand it's technically not delinquent. But
No,
it's all-
no, the people aren't delinquent until we send a bill out, I guess.
So
And it will be due 10/1.
and well, there's a letter going out with the annual landowners packet to all phase two owners, and it's going to tell them how much they should pay over the next 2 years to catch up, not legally, but properly to catch up. Yes, or to
And
catch
that
up
will
there.
just be to the property owners that did not pay all of
Yes,
phase
ma'am.
2 when that was paid off.
Right.
That's
And
right.
there's only a certain amount of us.
That's right.
Us.
There's 722 of you.
Oh,
Yeah, a good portion of, that's why what they did was wrong.
oh, wow.
So
Wow,
the payout
that
amount
many?
they gave us
Yes.
is incorrect?
Pardon?
You're gonna be busy.
They just didn't send any
We've
more.
got 700 homes to go to.
No,
The
They will send you a letter. if you want.
Oh,
There's
that's
no
fair.
penalties, so there's no problem if
That's fair.
they, somebody wants to pay the 2 years.
You'll get a letter.
Right
That's
up.
I think we're okay.
Yes, sir. Can I?
Let me know if I-
Do you want me to explain or?
Go ahead,
ahead.
go ahead, and then we need to move on.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm trying to get to. So,
Okay, hold on.
so what happened was when the phase two assessment was paid, when the phase two loan was paid off, then a letter was sent to Department of Revenue, State of Florida Department of Revenue, that said it's paid off, phase two assessment's paid off. Because of that, we cannot collect the phase two assessments anymore through the tax collector.
Correct.
That's why I did this letter to the phase two owners that says,
Right. This is on top of their taxes.
yes, sir. Here's an amount of money that you should have paid that is not on your tax bill from the tax collector. Here's the amount of money, and the board has said we'll collect it in 2 years. So send the first half this year, please, and send the second half next year, please.
Right. Can that be supported by a property lien?
The district does have a technical lien right under the statute,
Yeah.
not through the tax collector, but through the statute.
Right. If the rest of us paid, we want them to pay.
That's right. If you finance phase 2, you owe it. If you do not finance phase 2,
Right. I'm in. I'm all in.
you're in. I'm not. I'm out.
You're not done.
I'm out.
Okay, so if we take out the 50,000 from drainage, then take that back to 106,000, We add the 11,000 to engineering and takes that to 140,459, and we take back the I have to add the increase the insurance, and we take the administration to 79,308, and I take the insurance to 14,620. Like that one. Then that's going to change. Go up. The assessment to $570.53 per acre. I'll forget the pen. The 570.53. That's a 4.3% increase. It's $23.50 an acre, or $29.38 for an acre and a quarter.
So it's less than 5% increase versus 13.
Much better.
And so that would be and we have areas where, because as you know, and from years past, we built the Brooks 20,000. We don't include that in the offset, so that's where we could come up with monies if we needed for additional funding. We also have included, notwithstanding CIP Phase 2, we also have the bank interest that we don't typically use. We allow that to grow the investment funds, but that's $49,000 that we're anticipating, because we're now at about a 5% interest rate environment, whereas before we were at less than 1% and 1% interest rate environment. So that has significantly helped us in generating cash. So those are areas where we have some surplus that we could draw to without actually impacting the reserves if we find some things that are costing more than we anticipated.
Nothing. That's yours.
There's nothing that makes the Brooks pay us, but they wouldn't want us capping their pipe either, right?
The bulldozer's on its way.
Now keep in mind for everyone, we're working obviously with the city of Benita to make sure that this new development, like I want Ron and Rich to find out what these truckers are doing. When that development's done, they're supposed to create retention ponds on site. But they're still gonna be flowing our pipes, like all those condominiums at Cockleshell. At some point, these people are going to have to start paying. Because at some point, I believe, I could be wrong, but we have the legal right to just close the pipes coming into...
No, we can't close the existing pipes. We cannot let them create
new pipes.
So where they're digging that big pond right now, we can keep them from connecting into our canal system. So in the interlocal agreement that we're going to eventually sign with them, when Richard and their attorney get together on that, and when that happens...
I can't find him.
Pardon?
I can't find him.
You can't find him?
But go ahead.
I'll find him. But anyway, with all due respect, when that occurs, that will protect a number of things out here, which will all be encompassed in that interlocal agreement, and it'll allow for us to not spend money on things we don't have to spend money on. Sometimes it comes to code enforcement. It'll give us the ability to make a phone call and not have to send special letters out that our attorneys and things, oh, there goes your payment. No, I'm kidding. But no, even with our engineer, it'll reduce costs. Sometimes things that he has to spend a lot of leg hours and time on, he'll be able to make a phone call and get it done. So as we conclude that this coming year with the interlocal agreement, and that they can't connect that pipe till they do it. So the closer they get to the end of their construction cycle, the closer they're going to want that done. And I'm not signing it.
It's the moment of truth.
So we've been there before. We've held up things because of they don't have the authority to do it. Am I right?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
have.
So they will never get that pipe put into our canal system until they sign the interlocal agreement.
If Mr. Pringle can't find him now, but he'll be looking for Mr. Pringle later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get him on the phone.
Yes.
Oh, there's definitely a time when he's going to be looking. So, okay, what do you want to do with this budget? We finally got it down to a number I can live with. Thank you.
Good job, Jim.
Can
Okay.
live with it? Sounds good to me.
So, Mr. Chairman, the number is $570.53.
31. Oh, yeah, 53.
$570.
And 53 cents per acre for the general maintenance assessment.
You want a motion on the floor to approve that in the upcoming budget?
So here's what we have.
Okay.
It's two parts. The budget won't get adopted until September 23rd, but
Sure.
tonight you got to adopt that rate. No, sir, I'm sorry. You need to adopt the resolution that adopts that rate and the phase 1 capital improvement project rates for the 3 units. That's all in the resolution.
Anybody got that in writing somewhere? Are you going to read it?
Yes, sir, I can. I will.
You have it. You have a
it's-
copy of the resolution.
That's okay.
He's
Mr.
got
Pringle's going to read it, and we will.
Yes, sir. So there's a resolution before you this evening. It is resolution number 2023-007. It's a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the St. Carlos Estates Water Control District approving, levying, and reimposing a maintenance assessment and an assessment to pay the annual principal and interest for the Series 2003 bonds for the Phase 1 capital improvement project for the district's
Do you guys
fiscal
have
year.
a copy of this by any chance?
I don't know if
They
anybody
don't.
does.
They don't.
Okay.
We can't have that, that's for the board.
For the district's fiscal
You do.
year 2023-2024, commencing on October 1, 2023 and ending on September 30, 2024, against assessed property located within the district, directing the preparation of an assessment roll and providing for scrivener's errors, severability, rescission, construction, and an effective date. And this resolution, Mr. Chairman, is similar in form to the resolution the board adopted last year when the board adopted its assessment rates, except that last year, was it last year that they also had the phase 2? No, we did not have phase 2. So this is very similar to what you adopted last year in form. The assessment rate for the general maintenance assessment that the district board has discussed earlier was a $500.53 per acre assessment on 1,081.16 acres is calculated using the Lee County Property Appraiser units of measure. That excludes the 22 acres, right? 22 acres that were excluded from the district by the final judgment that was entered on those parcels, the 20-acre parcel, and also excludes the land owned by the district as well. That assessment will generate a maintenance assessment revenue amount of
616,834.21.
834.21.
I'll tell you in a minute.
While she's finding that, I can go on. The maintenance assessment that is imposed and levied against each accessible tract of land shall constitute a lien upon each accessible tract of land in the district so assessed. And then the annual maintenance assessment the assessment roll. I'm sorry, I locked up there for a second. The annual maintenance assessment will be described on the assessment roll that will be delivered to the tax collector for collection using the uniform tax bill collection method. So it'll go on the tax bill. That's what that fancy language says. Then you've also got a section on the imposition of the assessment to pay the Series 2003 bonds, the Phase 1 bonds. Those have, there are 3 units. In Unit 1, the assessment rate is $349.01 per acre. The Unit 2 assessment that is levied and imposed is at an assessment rate of $209.40 per acre, and the Unit 3 assessment will be levied and imposed at an assessment rate of $523.51 per acre. As with the maintenance assessment, that will generate a budget total estimated revenue amount of $338,037.99 from that assessment, which I believe I remember correctly, the phase one assessments paid off this coming year, correct?
Yes.
Should be paid off this coming year. So that should be, even though I refer to it, Mr. Chairman, as the annual assessment, it should be the final annual assessment for the phase one.
For the first bond.
2003 bonds. Yes, sir, for the phase one bonds. 2003 bonds. As in the same assessment roll will be provided to the tax collector, showing the amounts to be collected from each of the parcels based upon what unit they are in, so that the tax collector can collect those assessment revenues for you through the uniform tax collection method. And the remainder of the resolution, Mr. Chairman, is the standard boilerplate legal stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's the resolution and a motion to adopt the resolution. If you would, please, sir.
Put a motion on the floor to adopt the resolution.
And before you call the question, could you call for public input one more time, please, sir? Please, sir. Please, sir.
Any public input on this? Yes,
Can I
sir.
just ask a quick question?
Mike.
Quick question. Mike on Pinson, your
Thank
friendly beekeeper. The assessment, we're one of the properties that has a substantial amount of our property that's taken up by the canal. Do we pay assessment on that acreage as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
You actually pay across the canal.
On the total
You go
acreage.
actually, your land goes across.
On
So
the
I can
total
build a
acreage.
bridge and go over there and lounge.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just don't block the
You
water.
can't build a bridge over.
No, you can't build a bridge.
I'm going to build a bridge now. So
Well,
But you can wade across.
actually, with all due respect,
Or helicopter,
he could build a bridge if he asks us.
if you give him a permit.
If you
And
Okay.
everybody else gives him a permit, they would have to give him a permit.
But for 6,000 feet north and 6,000 feet, or actually east and west, you have to clear all the vegetation, allow the flow under the bridge. So no trolls can live under that bridge.
And pave it.
you're getting paid way too much money. So
Yeah, you need to get
Yeah.
half of that.
Is that correct?
So I can set up
Okay.
beehives on the other side of the canal.
Yeah, here's where I'm ending it.
If you can get there, I guess you
If I
could.
get there.
You just can't get the money.
We need to do 338, but
Any other questions,
it's gonna
please? It's
end up
getting
like
late.
that right
Yeah,
there.
kind of.
But I would just go with what you got.
Okay,
Was that number correct, 616?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
Yes, it was.
616 is
the
correct.
motion is on the floor.
I second the motion
616,
Motion's been
634.
seconded.
to adopt the
21
resolution.
Yes, to adopt the resolution and public input has been called for. You're
Motion
good, Mr.
carries.
Chairman. Thank you.
So we're done buzzing around,
No, I have one other comment.
pun intended.
Be nice.
Do you have what those numbers written down?
I think so, yes, ma'am.
All right, so who approved and who did what? Jim
Okay,
approved.
we'll put a motion, let's see what else we got left
John
here this
seconded.
evening.
Third.
We'll need to sign that resolution, Mr. Chairman.
I know,
Thank you.
you gotta have somebody to blame. Let's see.
That's the last.
Seconded.
That's the last of your business, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
supervisors' comments?
Are you going to do additional public input?
I am just gonna back up and do that, sir. I'm so sorry I overlooked
I
you.
just have a quick question. The canal on Stillwell appears to be quite overgrown.
That's
Is
what we
that-
were commenting on earlier.
So that's what you were talking about?
Yes,
so
sir.
With the canal.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure.
Unfortunately, like I said, we had the hurricane. We spent a tremendous amount of your money. We were gonna come knock on your door, but
The bees
I elected
let
not
you-
to.
Yeah, the
And
bees wouldn't let me, yeah, our guard bees.
Yeah, your killer bees were keeping us away.
Yeah. My aside comment was going to be, honeybees love Brazilian pepper, and it makes a very tasty honey. So just keep that in mind when you guys go killing everything.
Be careful, we'll bring some bee spray. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody dumped a whole debris on the last,
Down on Waterfall,
on the last road.
we know, unless somebody sees them or there's garbage in it that we can identify them.
I saw it there, I just didn't see when they dumped it.
Pardon?
You got all the
I
bugs.
walk over there and I see it, but
Right.
I didn't know who did it.
I know, and every time I see it around the neighborhood, and I've personally gone and pulled couches out of the surrounding canals with my tractor. Matter of fact, my brother, didn't you go help me that one time and get them out? Okay, so we've gone and taken garbage out of the canal system. We've cleaned out the logs in the front of the canal system, just him and I. I almost got bit by a big turtle, but
Jim likes snapping turtles.
but anyway, yeah. The only way we can catch these people is somebody sees them, grabs their telephone, takes a photograph or something, and helps us out. There's only 3 of us, and John says for his $50 a month, he wants to stand guard someplace. But okay.
Take a beer there, I'll stand guard.
And at the front gate, and
I'll
he
hang out
watches
with you.
the trucks and
We'll do a
trailers.
golf
got
party.
the
We'll just
garbage
have a
go
party.
in,
Yeah,
and it don't
we'll
come
golf
out.
cart party.
They dump it. I see it all the time, that's what happens.
That's probably true.
That's true. Camera at the front gate.
Okay, anybody else would like to say something? You got your 3 minutes, time up. Supervisor comments, there are none. Were there any?
I'm just curious, are we gonna check with FP&L when they put these lights in? They have to put power, right?
Yes, I've been in contact with FP&L. We have two accounts with them. One on Stillwell, which is a metered account, and then several lights on Strike Lane, which is a non-metered account. And I'm hopeful to get them both added to the non-metered account.
Yeah, make sure you check and see if those lights on Dietz are connected to them.
Those Deeds Drive lights were paid by the property owners that they in front of their houses. Don't go there.
No, the reason I'm asking that is because if we want to add some more cameras to start checking people, it'd be nice to have 110 or 240 voltage
Right.
off one of these lights, let FP&L set up the infrastructure, and then we can attach the camera system that needs power to set up a signal. So let's see if we can get external power abilities like receptacles or something. We'll put a NEMA enclosure from these whatever lights are putting up. So when you're talking to them, ask them, can we get that? Because then we have power to power our own camera systems.
Okay.
Not just a pole and a light and that's it. They bury everything underground.
Anything else?
Well, if you've got a metered.
We have a metered connection there, so
That meter there is for the gate.
for the gate, so we can.
And we've already
Off of
got,
that.
we've got outlets there too.
So we just need to worry about strike then.
Strike.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Supervisors?
Nope.
And
Put a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second the motion.
second, third.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you for input, everyone.
Jim, don't go anywhere.
By the way, anybody who cares, I am running for my position next month. Yes, ma'am.
This, and that.
I didn't see anybody who cared.
Nobody cared.
Good. I am leaving for 3 weeks on Thursday. I won't see you guys till a week before the election.
landowner.
So you're gonna contact us?
Pardon?
Before the annual landowner.
Yep.
And it's across the street from Jim's house. There's a transformer that changed out.